computer, and we are recording.
Yay.
Oh boy, we're live. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Donny Lobree.
And I'm Kirk Prine.
And we are delighted to have you back again for another Queer Tribe conversation. And today we are super delighted to have with us the very Javier Galitó-Cava.
Thank you, guys.
Bienvenido, mi amigo, qué gusto de verte.
Muchas gracias.
De nada. Anyway, so let's tell you, for those of you that have not already met Javier, we're going to tell you a little about him. So let me tell you a little about Javier before we start our conversation. Javier Galitó-Cava, Galitó, I guess. Cava is the artistic director of the Meisner Technique program, Spain, which is an acting conservatory he founded after receiving his acting education at A.C.T, American Conservatory Theatre, and from the Rachael Adler Studio in San Francisco. His acting career gave him the opportunity to work with wonderful directors and actors, mainly around the US. The core of his work revolves around the practice of listening deeply moment to moment. Javier's spiritual work is rooted in the understanding of giving and receiving permission to simply be enough, which is the basis of the artistic formation students receive at his conservatory. He's married to the Reverend Daniel Simmons, a priest in the Episcopal Church, and has learned to embrace Christianity while continuing his Buddhist practice. Javier travels constantly between Europe, United States, and South America, teaching his workshops to professional actors. Welcome, Javier.
Wow.
That is quite a lot. That's a couple of lifetimes, I think.
Isn't it? Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a full life, that's for sure. For sure.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you, by the way, for wanting to speak with all of us, not just with me, but with all of us. Thank you so much. I love you both, and it's so great to see you and be with you. You know, from the other coast, but you know, as you know, San Francisco is my hometown. So
yes,
I'm definitely there with you.
Yes, thank you. So let's launch in. We have our famous 3 questions that we ask everybody just to kind of get us started in the conversation, and brothers who are on the call or those listeners who are on the call, think about if there's anything that he speaks to that you want to hear more. So here we go. So first question, Javier, is just simply tell us about your spiritual journey, about your awakenings, and especially tell us stories, because I think that speaks to our heart as queer people, especially more than describing I was a part of this and that and that. So, right. But anyway, go for it. Tell us a little bit.
So, well, stories definitely. Besides being an actor, I mean, my life is quite the story. Today, as you know, we talked about it the other day. Today's my 26th birthday. I'm 26 years old, and I know I don't look it. I'm not lying, bitches. I'm not lying. Stop. No. So 26 years ago today, I woke up. I had a brain concussion, pretty extreme, and I live with global retrograde amnesia. I don't remember my life prior to this accident, to this incident, and so that was quite literally an awakening. You know, for me, the first awakening. For everybody else around me, my life and my friends especially, a second one, because they knew me from before. But being as it was, what happened was that at the beginning, you know, amnesia, by the way, is not like we see it in movies or in soap operas. It has many different phases. It has, for each person who lives with memory issues, it takes on different colors and different issues that they need to work on. For me, I didn't have any memory of anything. I had musical memory because it's recorded in a different part of the brain. I had muscle memory. I was a ballet dancer before, which that was really, really cool. But even my psychomotor skills had to be worked on. So that took me about two years or so to be able to have a 5-minute conversation with anyone without them noticing that there was something off or odd about me. So for me, the beginning was all about understanding why this thing called memory was so important for everybody else, because I was alive and I was well, and I don't have any bad memories of my life or how it began. It was just confusion. It was very confusing because everybody was telling me, well, you should have memory, you should remember your life. And there was something about that that rang true, but it didn't upset me. Everybody else around me seemed to be more upset. However, that gave me the tremendous freedom. Now in hindsight, looking back, I realized that it gave me the tremendous freedom to actually begin my spiritual journey without knowing, because for me, it was all about the present moment, not because I chose it, but because it was the only thing I had. I didn't have any memories to rely on. I didn't have any past grievances or baggage or memories of any kind to rely on. So I had to learn about social interaction, what it meant to interact with other human beings, and how, and why was it appropriate to say certain things here and not there. And of course, there are tons of funny stories regarding that, and thank God too, my family has a tremendous sense of humor. So they teased me, there's so many things that you can do to a person who doesn't have a memory, and, to mess with them and have fun. But for me, then, I would now, in hindsight again, say that my spiritual journey has been just a succession of continuing to learn how important it is to be present in this moment. That whatever you bring with you to this moment, that's great, or maybe not so great. But the important thing is that you're here right now in this moment. So your spiritual being, who you are, your spiritual life is not anywhere but here. And so for me, that began with a sense of the first time, I would say that the first times I began to understand what spiritual meant, for me, it was equivalent to being grateful, simply being grateful for everything, but really with intention, being grateful with intention, which means paying attention to all the reasons why I am grateful without comparison, because that was the other thing. It's like, everybody in my life, especially at the beginning, it was this weird thing, that they were constantly comparing me to either me before, or they were grateful for me, comparing it to what it could have been. It was always, gratefulness always came attached to comparison. Well, I'm grateful for what I have because it could be worse. But that's not, that to me was not being grateful. Being grateful was simply seeing what it was that you wanted to be grateful for, that you felt grateful for, and simply being grateful for that. So I would say that that was the basis of my spiritual journey from the very beginning. Then as I continued to learn, again, remember that I had to learn about social interaction and social structures. And very early on, of course, I learned about religion. And I kind of became allergic to the idea of religion. Any kind of religion to me seemed to be this counterproductive action that had nothing to do with spirituality. And so I just kind of brushed it under the rug. I never really paid any attention to it. Once I started reading about different faiths and different beliefs, it was very obvious to me that Buddhism and the way Buddhism shares reality made the most sense to me. So that's why I started practicing Buddhism,
Yes.
And then I continued to grow, to understand. I tried to go into Buddhism practice with other people too, but I always felt that my understanding of spirituality was very, very different from everybody else. And I always thought, well, it's probably because of the amnesia. It's just because of my point of view. And it's hard maybe for others to relate to how I see the world, or for me to relate to how they see it. I don't know. So I just continued on my own. And then I met Daniel, my husband, Daniel Simons. He's a reverend in the Episcopal Church. Now, I've been an activist too, by the way. As I kept growing and becoming politically involved and stuff, I became an activist. And the Christian church as a whole became one of my targets of activism too, because there was so much homophobia and so much hatred within, and I'm like, I couldn't believe that such an organization would call themselves spiritually based, you know? So I was in so many actions against so many different churches. And then I meet this man with whom I fell in love, like right, you know, it's like seeing him and going, oh my God, you know, wow. And within 5 minutes of talking, he had seen me on stage. We had been talking, you know, when you're an actor and people do recognize you, usually the first 5-10 minutes is all about, oh, and you're an actor and how, you know, how glamorous or whatever it is. So I try to cut that conversation short, you know, so we can talk about the other person, not get into the, you know, the typical talk about actors and acting. And so I asked him, so what do you do? And he said, well, I'm a priest. And I started laughing. I'm like, oh my God, wouldn't that be a hood? Yeah, that would be funny. It's like, no, really, I'm a priest. And I'm like, no, but you cannot be. I mean, and, you know, why can't I be a priest? I'm like, well, you're sensible and sensitive and gorgeous, by the way. And it's like, you know, it doesn't fit in the box that I have created for priests. You know, what I think of as priest. A priest is this kind of thing, not this, obviously, not you. We've been together ever since, you know. It was, it's 14 years later. And oh my God, what a beautiful, beautiful journey. So at this point, my spiritual journey didn't shift directions, didn't change directions, but it began to take on a tremendous depth. And it wasn't about going any distance. It was about staying where you are and going really, really deep. And it was so beautiful to realize that I didn't have to go anywhere to find anything new. I didn't have to go anywhere to discover anything new. That by just staying, which is something that I knew from practice from the very beginning, but to suddenly receive permission from this wonderful man. In practice, not verbal permission, but in seeing him live his life and how he did it, to just really deepen, going deep, going to the root, becoming radical. I remember that when I was younger and I was an activist, many times people referred to me as radical. I'm so radical. And I believe that too. And I used it. I used that label too. I'm a radical activist. I'm a radical person. And it wasn't until I met Daniel, and probably a couple of years after we met and we started dating and we got married and stuff, that I realized that all those years when I was saying that I was being radical, I was being reactive, but I was not being radical. And that radical meant going to the root, going deep. And that I had spent a lot of time in the foliage and in the branches, which is very important too. Very important too. There is a time for the foliage, for the branches, for everything. But so then I started going into more of the root, more of the radical. And I've been there. Then I became a teacher as an actor. You know, I trained at A.C.T, was great. But there was something about my training, because, you know, A.C.T, like many other conservatories, especially in the United States, they teach method, you know, and in method, there's a lot of memory work. And so I remember when I was in one of my first classes early on, and a teacher in class, Mr. Finocchiaro, he said, well, today we're going to do this exercise, and I want you to remember when you were 10. I said, well, I can't. I mean, I don't have that, you know, I don't have those memories. So a lot of even the acting training for me was like out of reach, because it was so based on memories of growing up, which I don't. I have all that information because, you know, I have great therapists and a great team of professionals who fed me back all that information and etc. But I didn't have my proper memory, my own. Then I discovered Meisner technique with Rachael Adler in San Francisco. And Meisner technique is all about being present, being here, and really listening right now, so that you can react truthfully to what's happening right now. And so I went crazy. I'm like, oh my goodness, I know how to do this. I totally know how to do this. It changed my acting career, of course, but it also changed my life, because again, it gave me permission to do what I already knew how to do. And so then I became a teacher. Rachel asked me if, well, I actually asked her if she would train me as a teacher. She took a while, and then she asked me to start working with her, and she trained me. And I opened my own program. And it was in the teaching that I can say that my spiritual journey again took another, it's like, I don't know how to explain this, but it's like it gave it even more batteries. It went even deeper, you know, teaching, having to teach others is how I've learned the most. You know, it's like when I learn the most is when I'm trying to teach others. And so that has been a beautiful, beautiful journey to continue to go deeper and to understand how important spirituality and spiritual journey is for everyone, no matter how they want to look at it, how they see it, or how they practice it. And in our conservatory, for example, at the orientation week and orientation meetings, we make it, and already in the interviews when they send their application, we make sure that every single actor who applies knows that we pay a lot of attention to their spiritual center throughout the process, because in acting and with this technique, I am going to ask them to go deep into places of darkness and places of light and places of other characters, that unless you have a very strong spiritual center of who you are, it's just going to drive you crazy, which is what unfortunately happens to so many of our colleagues in this beautiful profession. You have to really leave your center of gravity so much to go into another character, into a different point of view, that then it's very easy for some people to get lost. And unfortunately, so many wonderful artists do get lost in that journey. So I wanted to pay a lot of attention to that when creating my program. So spirituality is a very important part of my life. And I invite everyone to understand that it's not a matter of choice. Spirituality is an important part of our lives. Whether we know how to relate to that part or not is a different question. So I'm trying to help the actors with whom I work to realize that part and to go into that beautiful journey, you know. So I don't know if this answers the question of my spiritual journey or not, but and there I am. I continue to go deeper and learn and discover how beautiful this life is, if you let it be, if you allow yourself the space, the time to truly enjoy it, no matter what the circumstances, which I know it's easy to say. But yeah, that's what it's been like.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Well, I'm sure we could listen all day to kind of your spiritual stories and your teachings that came out of that awakening. Really juicy stuff. I mean, I remember, you know, when we first met years ago, and how I thought, wow, you know, all the sages of all time really kind of talk about kind of renewing our minds and our bodies and kind of having a reset, or actually just your word, rooted. You know, being radical is to be rooted and grounded in love. That's who I see you are, and you had a clean slate.
I did, right?
Start. So that was, so you know, I probably even Reed, who's on the call, but you know, I've told your stories many times about, you know, have you had this experience when In Tacoma came out, had a clean slate and had to like get present to what's going on in the world right now in a whole new way, and what if that was true for us? So anyway, I just love the juiciness of that story, but let's move you into the next question.
Yes.
So next question is, so from this awakening that you've had and are continuing to have, do you see us as LGBTQ plus people, or just as gay men? Do you see us as a queer tribe? Or how do you see us as tribe? Is always a juicy question.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
go for it.
So, yeah, I mean, I see us as anything we want to be. I see us as a tribe. I see us as a community. I see us as neighbors and brothers and sisters. I see us as all of this. I think that that question for me probably becomes more interested when I say, do I see us as a tribe, or versus do I see that we need to be a tribe?
Okay.
And then when I go into that question, I realize that yes, there are many people who need to feel the closeness of a tribe, who need to feel the protection, the embrace, the love, the sharing, the closeness of a tribe. And that's a need that we have, all of us as human beings. And there's also a need that changes as we grow, as communities, as people, as countries, as humanity in general. And I think that we have been an example, like many other tribes, like many other communities, the LGBTQ plus community tribe has been an example, without pretending to be, of inclusiveness and growth and openness and flexibility and diversity, you know. And so when I think about that, and I think the beautiful journey that we have had as a community, as a movement together, I think that it's also time for us. It's not that it's time that we should. What I'm trying to say is that it's time that we are already doing this. I think that we are beginning to realize that any division is the opposite direction in which we want to go. And tribe, community, after all, continues to be division. It continues to be something exclusive. And that we as a community have this dichotomy inside of us. We have this two things going on at once, where we realize how important it is to be inclusive and how important it is to embrace and to stay away from the label and the mark and the thing. And at the same time, we feel this tremendous need for identity and freedom in identity.
Yeah.
You know, so we are a tribe fighting not to be a tribe, I believe, I think, you know, in many ways.
Tribe fighting not to be a tribe.
Yes, but that sounds more violent than I actually like. I feel that we are slowly erasing borders so that we can all enjoy a common horizon. That's beautiful. I like that. I like that.
Beautiful.
We are deleting, we are erasing these divisions, whether they're political or social or economical or racial, whatever. But we are, as a planet, we are in that space now already, where we are looking for ways to erase all these boundaries so that we can all share one common horizon. Now, we've spent millennia being divisive and exclusive, so it's gonna take a while to be different from all of that. But I think that we're definitely there. So yes, we are a tribe, and I also see the need to expand our tribe to something that doesn't need letters, labels, colors, or flags, you know. Which is a beautiful reality as well.
Yeah, great. Those are really juicy thoughts. Yeah, I'm reminded, and again, keep referring back to you, Reed, because you're kind of my set point. But you know, one of our interviews that we did was with a man, John Ballou. And John talks about the tribe that, we all come in and we may identify and realize our identity is same-sex love, you know, men who love men, or however that works as far as our sexual orientations. But he says it's a calling. So really what you're talking about, I hear kind of in his words, you know, it's actually a calling to be present, to be that inclusive bridge building tribe that we are, and that we're ever kind of beginning to understand as we lift off some of the oppression or break free from the oppression, who it is that we actually are, so that we can better be the gifts of all the things that you just talked about. So yeah, I love this. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. Thank
And
you.
I love, so lately in the past year and a half or so, I started this practice, especially with actors with whom I work. And, so many actors are stuck. We get stuck in our own narratives as actors and as human beings, right? I am the kind of person that, fill in the blank. And that's the narrative. That's, where we are stuck. And for actors, that's very, very dangerous. So I've tried to tell actors that every time they find themselves saying, I am this, whatever they choose to say that they are, to add the adverb intentionally in front of it. So even if you say, I am an actor, I'm intentionally an actor. I am an actor with intention, intentionally. I am gay. Okay, so what does it mean to be gay intentionally? What does it mean to be queer intentionally? Or what does it mean to be from San Francisco intentionally? That once you put the adverb there intentionally, you realize that this is not something automatic. You have agency in whatever you are to make it be something with intention. You drive what this is to the next meaning. What will it mean to be LGBTQ next 25 years? We have agency in that. So, and that comes by being intentional, not just being.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, thank you. And probably a good segue into our next question. So as tribe, as the man who's had a clean slate that woke up and is now teaching people to get embodied and go on deep journeys through the vehicle of acting, what do you see for us as a queer tribe, a gay queer movement, as a people? What's our role, our contribution, and better, what's our vision in these times, in COVID times, in racial disparity times, in economic disparity times, and all the upheavals that are happening in the world? How are we a part of that, if you see us as part of that?
Yes, definitely. One, as I mentioned, in the bio, what I teach is all based on giving and accepting permission to be enough, As an LGBTQ community member, I believe that being enough is something that we intentionally, if we put our effort into it, that we can teach the world to accept what being enough is. We have had to do so much work as men, women in the LGBTQ community to accept us as enough, to accept ourselves as enough. And it's an ongoing journey, right? It's not like we have accepted it, but we have had to put so much intention into it that I think that we can't give that to the rest of our brothers and sisters around the planet. We can help the rest of the planet heal by accepting enoughness in exactly as you are. Be exactly the freak you are, and know that that freak is loved and embraced, and you are enough being that. In order to do that, and I think that this is something that I see happening, that I do see the need that we have as a movement, as a tribe, as a community to heal, but there's so much listening that we have to do to ourselves. There's so much internalized homophobia still in our community, and so much suffering that we don't know how to deal with. So I think that I would like our vision to continue to be on that line, on those terms, on that line of healing each other through listening, through really being present. I'm so fortunate to have been raised in San Francisco, to grow up in San Francisco, a city that embraces the freak in you, a city that basically if anything, tells you, how dare you not be a freak? Of course you are. You know, like, be it, and be it right now. How dare you? You know. So I am so fortunate to have grown up there, to learn what it is to be a human being in an environment like that has made me embrace the world in such a different light, and with such different love, you know, that people who have grown up in communities where that was not there. So I think that that's where we're going. It's a pilgrimage. You know, pilgrimages are uncomfortable. And the one thing that concerns me sometimes is the love for comfort. You know, how we become accustomed. You know, when our community was fighting not to be put in jail just because we were gay, you know, and we had to fight all of that. There was a lot of discomfort in that, and therefore a lot of growth in that time.
Yeah.
With the beauty of rights and the beauty of recognition also comes sedentarism. You know, it becomes comfortable. And it's easy for us to forget that there's still so much work to do, not just for us, but for everybody else, you know? So I think that that's where we're going, or I'm hoping that that's where we're going. In the end, we will choose. We will continue to choose moment to moment. I don't know where we're going. We will choose tomorrow and the day after and the day after. Today, I think we're going towards a place of healing through listening and learning how to embrace each other even more deeply without judgment, which we are so good at. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. So you've given us a lot of little nuggets to respond to, and though we're a small group on here, I see everyone, I probably know a little bit about most all of you, that you're rather wise men as well. So what are your wise questions? What would you like to know from Javier? Now we have him in our purview.
Go right ahead.
Anyone can unmute, or if you're muted, unmute and just raise your hand and ask a question. Go for it. Yes, Bob. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. I should probably have my microphone in front of me rather than halfway across the table when I unmute. Hi, I really empathize with your talk of relearning social interactions. I have autism, so I don't have like the intuitions that a lot of people have for seeing other people's emotions, at least not until I'm very close with them, which is related. That's more of a self-indulgent sentence. It's not that related to this question. You talked about how at your conservatory, you look at the spiritual center of your students, or you try to pay attention to that, so that you can tell how like anchored they are to it, or how aware they are of it. How do you see that? How do we see
that? That's a great question, right? Okay, that's a very good question. So the way we pay attention to that is basically taking a look at the actor. You know, first of all, you should know that as a conservatory, we have meetings. We have weekly meetings, the whole faculty. I am very tough as an artistic director. So, and I insist, we have weekly meetings with the whole faculty to talk about every single student by name and saying, how was this week? What is happening to this person? How can we better assist this person in their growth onto the next level? Now, in those conversations, sometimes we begin to notice differences in the behavior and in the way they relate to other people. When that is happening, we always, the person who's teaching the level in which they are at that time, always takes time with that person aside, and we sit down and we say, how are you? What's going on in your life? What changes are you feeling? What are you doing about it? Do you feel despair? So we have a constant conversation. That's how we know, because we're in constant conversation, and we give them permission to be in that conversation for the rest of their life, for them to understand that you need others as well to understand your own spiritual life. You need the vision and the support of those around you to see yourself. And that is very, very important. But yeah, we pay a lot of attention. We're like hawks because, you know, they're educators. I mean, they put their life in our hands basically for 2.5 years, and we make them go to all these very different places. So we pay a lot of attention. Now, also during orientation meeting, we have very open conversations. For instance, we invite everyone who's addicted to any kind of substance or whatever addiction they feel they're addicted to. We never ask anyone to go clean or to leave that addiction, but we tell them that, first of all, you cannot come to class or to rehearsal high on anything if you're addicted to a substance. But we're constantly asking them how their relationship to their addiction is, so that they don't feel forced or they feel invalid or less than because they're addicted. You know, to us, they're as valuable and as capable as anybody else. And they have to pay attention to that relationship. So again, it's all about having these conversations and having them in a way that are open and that are not shame-based, or you should and you could be different and be more and be better. But again, going back to the basis that no matter who you are right now, you're enough. No matter who you are, no matter what your circumstances, no matter how many addictions you have right now and how horrible you feel about them and how ugly and how dirty you feel about them, you are enough. You are enough exactly as you are. So let's go from here. Let's begin here, and let's pay attention to how you relate to the world around you. That's how you start finding your own spiritual center in relationship to everything else. And I want to say something, Bob, in regards to autism. For me, and still now, because of my way of being and my point of view and what's happened to me, many people still today think that I'm probably in the spectrum as well, or Asperger's, especially in the beginning, the first 2.5 years, again, because you couldn't have a conversation with me for more than 5 minutes without realizing something is not exactly as I expected it. So many people for the longest time have thought that, you know, I'm in the spectrum, or that I have Asperger's. And let me tell you what a gift that is, because we need that. We need that point of view. I have friends and very, very loved people around me who are in the autism. Oh my goodness, the point of view of a person who can see the world from a complete detached set of parameters it's so invaluable. So thank you. Thank you also for your beautiful point of view.
Thank you. You're very, I'm possibly going slightly over the time I'm allowed to talk, sorry, but I've seen people suspect Asperger's just from seeing someone be very passionate, because we're known for being, I'm using passionate instead of obsessive because it sounds better.
Right.
But like the moment someone can tell that you're really, really into something and that you really understand it, like, something's wrong here.
Yes. I am extremely passionate. You are completely correct when it comes to, I am beyond passionate. My hunger is ridiculous.
Yes.
You know, my curiosity for life, my hunger for life is ridiculous. You know, I'm an actor and I'm an artistic director and a serious guy. And everybody thinks that my quotes in class, you know, should be something from Shakespeare, and I have plenty of them. But the one quote by which every single one of my students remembers me is from Auntie Mame. Life is a banquet, and most poor suckers are starving to death. And I repeat this quote almost every day in my life. And I think that is so important, that there's so much spiritual depth in there if we allow it to be, because life is a banquet. And you can eat. You don't have to starve. You don't have to starve. You just have to pay attention. So I'm glad that my passion encourages others to be as hungry as I am.
Yes. Great. Well, Reed, you have a question that you actually wrote down, but what
I did, but I'll speak it. So, but first of all, the fact that you cited Auntie Mame means that you truly are a Queer Tribe member.
Yes,
I have a Facebook friend.
Live, darlings.
Today he posted for my he was talking about his 65th birthday, which is today, and he said, so I celebrated by watching Auntie Mame. And I thought, well, that's perfect
great
ritual for a 65-year-old gay man.
Yes.
So my question is, so any tips, or what do you think about how we can stay embodied and present, in an embodied way, given that we're forced to be in this sort of telepresence webinar format, which, you can do a lot of things. You can get people to breathe and you can get them to do activities, which I'm sure you do, but there's so much focus on the visual and the auditory and not on the actual like energetic presence of being in the room. And very importantly, not on touch, which of course for flesh and spirit practitioners, it's like, I can't believe I've gone a year without any kind of group gathering, right? So just curious what you would throw into the mix of how we can stay present, embodied, and still connected with people.
Right. When the pandemic hit, I was teaching in Rome at the moment. And at 11:30 at night, the directors from the conservatory there called me like, Javier, we have to get you on a plane. There's a new decree. We're closing the airports. If we don't get you out, you're stuck here in Rome for the next 2 months, which could be a lot worse. I admit, but I wanted to come back home. So I got out of there, flew into Barcelona because I had to teach there, but changed the ticket, came to the States right away. And then, when everything was closed, tons of schools started offering their online classes and courses. And my team said, let's start doing it. I'm like, no, let's not do that at all. And said, well, why not? That's what everybody else is doing. I'm like, great, fantastic. Let's clap for them. But that's not what I feel we need to do. First of all, we don't have a curriculum that is designed for online. And if we're going to offer it online, we first have to design it knowing that that's going to be where we are, because it's a different element. It's a different set of parameters. But number two, and very important, I said, as artists, this is now forcing us to not be busy, to go on an introspective journey. And we are so used to taking all these beautiful journeys outwards and to going all these places to learn and discover and so, but suddenly we are terrified of the prospect of having to go within and having to do that by ourselves. We're scared shitless. We don't want to do this. Please don't. And I think that this is a great opportunity for discomfort. Again, being comfortable is the death of all of us. And in this discomfort of not touching, because I want to touch you all, I want to hug you all. But in this beautiful discomfort of having to touch myself, there's a beautiful journey and a beautiful opportunity to learn how to love that, how I can love to touch myself too. Doesn't mean that I don't need others' touch, doesn't mean that I'm not expecting for this to end so I can hug everybody and be touched by everyone. But I think that it's a beautiful invitation to be uncomfortable, not to find ways to ignore the discomfort, but to actually go into the discomfort and be uncomfortable together and go, oh my God, today I'm so uncomfortable. I cannot touch myself anymore. Please someone put your hand through the camera and touch me. Let's talk about that. Let's see what happens there. So that's what we can do. We can accept how uncomfortable this is, and therefore what a beautiful opportunity it is to discover things that usually we don't have a chance to discover, knowing that they're scary. And scary is good. Scary is fine. It's just another human emotion, I don't know if that answers.
Oh yeah. Thank you. Okay. I mean, the takeaway is, a lot of work right on self-love and everything through in the work that Flesh and Spirit does, and it's such an obvious response and yet I didn't thought about it. It's like, just focus on touching yourself, literally any way possible, like any way that works.
In any way, not just sexually, sexually too, please,
right.
Please, but touch yourself, hug yourself, feel your face. Put your hand on your face and just feel that and say, oh, that feels good. And then imagine whose hand you would like that to be and why. Feel that person. And how would you like that person to touch you? Why not? Imagination is a treasure that was given to all of us from birth. Let's use it.
Yeah,
It's a
thank
gift.
you. That's great.
Beautiful. Well, I wish we had all day because it's just getting better and better. You know, I'm reminded of the movie, what was it, Bent, where
Oh, beautiful. Yes.
the two gay men in
Oh,
Auschwitz or in a concentration camp, and how did
yes.
they make love? They stood next to each other
Yes.
and simply talked quietly, inviting each other into their imagination so that their energy could touch each other when they were unable to physically be allowed to touch each other. So yeah,
Yes.
thank you, Javier, that you brought us back to yeah, this is where it all starts, and
Yes.
we gather that in as we bring it back out. So beautiful.
Yeah.
We're running out of time. Anybody have a burning question that will only take like 1 minute before we close? If not, we will end this. Reed, you have a second question? I see your, oh no, okay, great.
Well, good. Then, you know, thank you so much, Javier. And again, I wish we had more time and we can so much to talk about. But thank you all for being with us today, and a special thanks to Javier for his time and enlightening us and inspiring us, by the way.
Thank you.
So thank you for that, for
Absolutely.
giving us a lot of food for thought. And as this is being recorded and will be sent out and put on our channel and sent out to our list and so on. So others will have the chance to.
So another 1,000 brothers.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll get
Yes.
a chance to hear and drink in some of what was shared today and your wisdom. So
Yes.
Javier, thank you.
And perhaps I may say that Javier's husband has said that he would like to chat with us here on the Queer Tribes Call. He has his own very unique spiritual life as Episcopal priest, and we would be delighted. So we'll work on arranging
we'll
that.
set that up.
Yeah.
We'll set that up. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Yes, very generous.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. And please just remember that life is a banquet. It truly is a banquet.
Great.
So eat. May I find you all in the banquet. May we all continue to eat together.
Yes. And Javier, is there? I think your email may be on the bio. But is there anything that you want to plug as we close up the call?
Life. No, life. That's what I want to plug. Great. The fact that you are enough. That's what I want to plug. Every single one of you is enough to start eating today. So just do that. Please.
Thank you. And thank you all.
Yes, thank you all.
And namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you.